Protean View has a video on in which he basically says that people that refer to scientific articles or statistics have no more evidence or leg to stand on than people that just say what's on the top of their head. And I don't agree with that at all. But I do acknowledge that there's a general, let's say, attitude towards science that is somewhat like, why should I believe you? You're a scientist. You can say all kinds of crazy stuff, and I can think of it of myself, and that in turn is kind of symptomatic of a lack of understanding of what a scientist usually does, if he's a good scientist. And you can be sure that the top universities around the world have the good scientists. And so I thought I'll talk about it for a second, at least the way I look at it. I've worked with scientists and I've tried to be one myself, a good one. And what scientists basically do is they come up with an idea which they have for which they think there's evidence to be found. That's one type of scientist. So then they have measurements that they have to make, and so they find out a way to measure what they want to determine in order to prove what they think is true. So sounds a little bit complicated already, but it's a whole process that the scientist goes through on his own already to find out something that is true. For instance, I can say that snails with red color, fancy snails with a green color in their scale, and I can think of that, or I can see it in reality, and then I say, okay, is it really true? And then I have to do a lot of measurements. I have to count all kinds of snails in every continent, and after 2 years of work or 4 years of work, after a long time, very difficult work in all kinds of places, I can say for sure, for 99% sure, that red snails fancy green snails on average. And that's my scientific conclusion then. Science works then in the following manner. Somebody else can come to me and say, you say red snails like green snails, but did you check if all the green snails you consider green snails are actually green snails, or that they're possibly blue snails with a green color? Or maybe that the red snails, they're not really red snails, but they're red ants, but you thought they were snails. Did you check that? And another one comes, no, you counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but you should count differently. And you should always use this and this technology. And another one comes, and another one comes, and another one comes with another argument and say, you didn't look in Australia, or you didn't look on Borneo, or you did look in Borneo, but you didn't look everywhere in Borneo. And then another one comes. And that's science, because it's allowed, it's always allowed to come to some scientist and criticize his work and ask him a question and try to find something in his methodology that doesn't work, that's not true. And that's what scientists do to each other. If they're in the same field, then one says, I finally definitely proved that red snails like green snails. And then there's another scientist in the same field that also tries to prove that, and he says, yes, you think you proved it, but you didn't look at the temperature of the air while they're close to each other, because at low temperatures green snails don't like red snails at all. And that story is very, very tiring to live in such an environment, but that's the environment that the scientist is in. So then you have to realize that if a scientist comes up with a theory, or if a group of them comes up with a theory, and it's out there, and it remains out there for more than 5 seconds, it already has some credibility. And if it's more than 10 seconds, it has increasing credibility, 20. And so it has already been tested extensively if it's out there. And then, so somebody goes out there, or 3,000 scientists goes out there and say climate change is true, and then somebody goes, no, it's the sun. Well, who are you going to believe?